If you've lost someone, you almost certainly have heard about the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Like it's a recipe. Like you're supposed to move through them in order, check them off, and arrive at the other side, healed, fixed, done. And if you didn't, if you got stuck in anger or skipped denial altogether and went straight to depression or circled back to bargaining 3 years later, you might have thought you were doing it wrong. You might have thought you were broken. But let me tell you something I wish someone had told me years ago. The 5 stages of grief were never meant for you. They weren't written for the bereaved. They were never supposed to be a roadmap for how you grieve. And the way we've been using them, the way our culture has packaged them, has caused a lot of harm. Our culture makes grief seem like it's a broken leg. You break it, you set it, you cast it, you get the cast off, you do physio for a while, and then voila, you're healed. But here's what actually happens. And here's why you're not behind, you're not broken, and you're definitely not grieving wrong. So here's what most people don't know. The 5 stages were introduced by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in 1969. She was a Swiss-American psychiatrist, brilliant in many, many ways, and her book called On Death and Dying changed how we talk about death. But here's the thing. She wrote those stages for people who were dying, not for people who were grieving someone else's death. Her research was based on interviews with terminally ill patients, people that were reaching the end of their life, people facing their own mortality. The stages were described what some of them experienced as they came to terms with their own death. Even Kubler-Ross herself, before she died in 2004, said she regretted how the stages had been misused. She'd never meant them to be linear. She never meant them to be like a prescription for grief. She never meant anyone to feel like a failure because their grief didn't fit into 5 tidy little boxes. But somewhere along the way, the culture grabbed hold of this model and turned it into something else entirely: a checklist, a timeline, a standard you're supposed to measure yourself against. And that's where the damage started. So here's what happens in real life when you believe the 5 stages are the rule book for grief. You're 3 months in and you're still angry. You're furious. Not at the person who died, although that does sometimes happen, at the doctor who missed something, at yourself for not calling more, at your sibling who seems fine and you can't understand how. And you think, I'm stuck in anger. I should be bargaining by now. I should be past this. Or you skip denial entirely. You knew they were dying. You watched it happen slowly. There was nothing to deny. And so you think, did I not grieve them enough? How come I didn't go through denial? Or, and I want you to hear this, you're 5 years out, you've built a life, you're functioning, you're okay. And then one random Tuesday, you hear a song in a grocery store and you are on your knees in the cereal aisle. And you think, I was supposed to be at acceptance by now. I'm going backwards. What's wrong with me? Nothing. Nothing is wrong with you. The stages were never meant to be a timeline. They were never meant to be a test. Grief is not a staircase you climb. It's not even a circle. It's more like, and I've heard this from so many people, it's more like a room you live in. Some days you know where all the furniture is. Some days you are stubbing your toe into the coffee table that you totally forgot was there. The pain is the same pain. It just stops surprising you quite as often. And the harm of the 5 stages isn't just that they're inaccurate. The harm is that they make grieving people feel like failures. On top of your loss, you now have shame. Shame that you're not doing it right, and shame in grief is one of the heaviest things you can carry. I have spent more than a decade working in hospice and bereavement. I have sat with hundreds of people at end of life. I have walked with families through the days, weeks, months after. And here's what I can tell you with certainty. There are no two people that grieve the same way, not even in the same family, not even for the same person. Every person's grief is as unique as a fingerprint. I remember one family, a mother dying in hospice, 3 adult children, a husband, all in the same room, different times, all losing the same person. And every single one of them was grieving differently. The daughter took over. She became the organizer. She was on the phone, scheduling visitors, handling paperwork, doing. That was her grief. The husband, he just walked, paced the halls, circled the building around and around and around. He couldn't talk. His body needed movement. One son crawled into bed with his mom while she was unresponsive, curled up beside her like he was 6 years old again. And the other son, we only saw him once. He visited and he never came back. If you put those 4 people through the 5 stages checklist, I don't know what boxes you'd check, because every single one of them was grieving. None of them were doing it wrong. Some people cry. Some people don't cry for a year. Some people get physically sick, nausea, headaches, their body just collapses. Some people get hyperproductive. They clean the whole house, organize the funeral, they handle everything. And the breaking doesn't come until 6 months later when the tasks run out. Some people talk about the person every single day. Some people can't say their name out loud for years. All of that is grief. None of that is wrong. So if the 5 stages aren't the answer, what is? And here's what I've seen actually help people. It's not a framework with 5 boxes, but a way of thinking about grief that gives you permission to be exactly where you are. Grief is not something you finish. It's something you integrate. The loss doesn't get smaller. You grow around it. Imagine a ball inside a box. Early on, that ball is huge and it hits the sides of the box constantly. That's why everything triggers you. Over time, the ball doesn't shrink, but the box gets bigger. You have more room. The ball still hits the sides. It's just a little less often. And when it does, it still hurts just as much. The goal is not to reach acceptance like it's a finish line. The goal is to learn to carry what you've lost in a way that lets you also carry your life. And maybe the most honest thing I can tell you is this comes from years of sitting with dying people and grieving families. It's that some grief just doesn't resolve. Some losses change you permanently, and that's not a failure. So if you've been measuring yourself against the 5 stages and feeling like you're failing, here's what I want you to try instead. First, name what's actually happening. Not, I'm in the anger stage, just, I'm angry today, or I'm exhausted, or I can't stop thinking about them. Naming the real thing without trying to label it reduces shame. Shame lives in silence and comparison. Honesty shrinks it. Second, give yourself permission to be wherever you are. There is no schedule you're supposed to be on. No one, not Kubler-Ross, not your well-meaning friend, not the internet, gets to tell you how long your grief should be and what shape it should take. Third, if you're really struggling, find someone who can hold space for your grief without trying to fix it. A grief counselor, a support group, a friend who just knows how to sit with you. You don't need someone to hand you a checklist. You need someone to sit in the dark with you until the light starts to come back. And lastly, if this is you, If you've been carrying shame about how you're grieving, I want you to say it again clearly. Say, I am not broken. I am grieving and I am not behind. I started working in hospice because I saw what happens when people don't get honest conversations about death and grief. My own experience with death, my grandma's funeral, when I was 20 years old, my very first funeral I ever went to, nobody had prepared me, and the feelings didn't go away. They just went quiet for years. And it wasn't until I started doing this work that I finally had the language for what happened. If this video made you feel seen, if you feel like you've been carrying around a version of grief that didn't fit the 5 stages, and you thought that you were doing it all wrong, please tell me in the comments, or just say, me too. Or tell me what your grief actually feels like. I want this to be a safe place for you. And if you want more videos that tell the truth about grief instead of giving you a checklist, please like and subscribe. It helps other grieving people find this channel, and you'll get notified when the next video is up. So thank you so much for watching. You are welcome to come and grieve with me anytime.